There is a particular metallic taste to silence when it settles over a dinner table, one set with ceramic plates, glass bowls of string beans, buttered rolls, and the expectation that you will not disrupt tradition. For 3 minutes, the only sound was cutlery ticking awkwardly against chicken bones, minds working in the hush between forkfuls. My mother, always so precise with her shading of disappointment, cleared her throat and tucked a stray hair behind her ear. "So, Aaron," she asked, "are you still thinking about those robots?" There it was, half incredulity, half challenge, and fully loaded. I looked up from my plate. My father was already shaking his head before I spoke, his eyes glazed with the kind distance he'd developed over the years, a look reserved for late-night infomercials or my report cards in high school. He stabbed his food and said nothing. Aunt Nora, visiting from Long Island, chimed in. "I saw on the news how those computers can draw pictures now, but you want to make the things that walk and talk, right?" She peered at me like I was 12 and trying to sell her on a time machine made of tinfoil. Actually, I tried, but my younger brother Eli cut me off. "Don't quit your day job, man," Eli said, grinning. He was just back from law school, hair slicked, cufflinks shiny. "You want to compete with Japan? Boston? You need what? $1 billion and a prayer?" I felt the low throb of rage, but kept my hands steady, careful not to clench the glass of water in my lap. My knees bounced under the table, just slightly, as I tried to sound even. "It's not just about the big companies. I've been working on a bipedal prototype, one that self-adjusts on uneven ground. Some papers say—" "Papers," my dad interrupted, shaking his head. "You don't need to read a paper to know when the market is full." People smarter than us are already miles ahead. Why waste your time? The room filled with the smells of gravy and roast, but my voice threatened to tremble. I believe in what I'm doing. Eli laughed, sharp and metallic. "Come on, Aaron. You've been tinkering since you were 13. You really think you can be the next Elon Musk?" My mother, gentler but more dangerous, said, "Dreams are fine, honey, but you need something secure. Someday you'll want a family, stability. You can't live on idealism." The tips of my ears burned. My jaw ached with effort to keep my teeth together. I wanted to stand, flip my plate, scream. Instead, I mopped up my gravy calmly, felt my chest constrict. My fork scraped the porcelain. A small violence. After dinner, I helped clear the table. I could hear Aunt Nora whispering in the hall, the family gathering in the living room to talk about me. When I left that night, I didn't say goodbye. The subway ride back to my shoebox apartment was claustrophobic, every white tile of the station reminding me of how little space I inhabited, how much room my dreams seemed to take in the minds of those who doubted me. I cycled through what I would have said, something cutting, something that would leave Eli speechless, but I hadn't. That was restraint, or weakness, depending on who you asked. I let myself want more, just for a moment, more room, more respect. The freedom to be more than background chatter at family gatherings. Instead, I emerged above ground into the flicker of Broadway lights and walked the 7 blocks home, past pizza shops and thick-skinned doormen. I closed the door behind me and looked at my workshop table, the skeleton of a half-assembled mech standing in the pool of a desk lamp. My tools were lined up in a careful row. Wires spilled out of my basket, little copper reins. My notebook gaped open, crowded with diagrams, servo mechanisms, code snippets, equations. This was my certainty, even if nobody else could see it. The next morning, I woke just before dawn. On the wall hung my diploma, somehow both proof and suggestion that I ought to have done more conventional things with my life. The city outside was still dark. I drank coffee at my workbench, fingers tapping at keys, fusing together lines of C++, diagrams, and memory foam prototypes. I failed 8 times so far on the stabilizing ankles of my design. The 9th model had managed 5 cautious steps last week, then toppled gracelessly. I watched the video on my phone, the little bot pausing, trembling, then folding like a nervous pony. But something in that hesitation, that vulnerability, it was honest. I wanted, no needed, it to carry more than just weight. I wanted it to carry defiance. I could chart the seasons by the way I lost and found hope. When my rent increased, I took on freelance CAD work for a medical devices company. I coded all night after meetings, drank cheap espresso, my eyes burning by sunrise. Money drained through my hands. Once, I called Eli to ask for a loan. He laughed. "Still building Wall-E clones?" I said nothing, hung up, and pawned my old guitar. 2 more years and I was thinner, my cheeks sharper, my knuckles perpetually bruised from slipping bolts and soldering iron burns. The landlord eyed me closely at every payment. The postman asked, "Still working on those robots?" Sometimes I caught my reflection in a train window and barely recognized myself. Rejection is a shape changer. It's a polite no from a venture capitalist who says my prototype is charming but frivolous. It's suspicious laughter from accelerator reps wondering why I expect to compete with MIT. It's my mother forwarding an email about a postal worker exam. I kept at it. Every mistake became a lesson described in the margins of my notebooks. My tiny kitchen cabinets filled with spare motors, my fridge filled with takeout and regret. Some nights I fell asleep at the bench, soldering iron cooling between my fingers. But I met people, little pockets of believers on message boards, engineers on Discord calls, who gave advice without condescension. One late night, a Brazilian programmer named Leo walked me through code that made the bot's stride more natural. I thanked him as the sun rose, city buses beginning to rumble down the avenue. Then it happened. One Monday afternoon, barely awake, feet propped up on milk crates, I ran my newest sequence. The robot, waist-high and glossy white, took 5 ginger steps, paused, then pivoted. On the video stream, it adjusted its hips, self-correcting without me touching the controls. It turned, raised its little arm in a clumsy wave, and kicked a soda can right into a recycling bin. My lungs froze. My hands shook. I laughed, wild and exhausted. I named it Roscoe, my tired hero. I posted the video online just for the Discord friends. It started small, 30 views, then 300, 10,000. Someone clipped it for TikTok. Soon, Good Morning America called. The interview was short, the set busy and bright. My words stumbled, but my smile was real. New York Tech Magazine did a feature, Brooklyn's Robot Dreamer. For the first time, the word engineer sat beside my name instead of hobbyist. Then it was investor meetings, angel rounds. I watched numbers on spreadsheets grow, terrified and elated in equal measure. I hired help, a designer from Queens, 2 grad students from Columbia who'd always wanted a place to build, to experiment. We called ourselves 6th Street Robotics. Our office was a former pizza parlor, the floors forever sticky. We extended Roscoe's firmware. Soon he was opening doors, stepping over obstacles, carrying small packages. His walk, confident, almost cocky. Amazon called. So did 3 hospitals. "We're not interested in weaponizing," I told the press, tired of the inevitable questions. At night, I sometimes walked home the long way, letting the biting wind freeze the leftover anger, watching New York through the eyes of those excluded by polite ambitions. The family group chat blew up the first time Roscoe appeared in the New Yorker. Aunt Nora sent a message. "Wow, I saw the thing on the internet. Is that yours?" My dad texted, "Saw your robot. Congrats." My mother didn't say anything, but 2 weeks later, she sent a forwarded article about Elon Musk's mother. Still, I didn't return. It took 5 years. By then, we had 10 employees. We just signed a deal to supply limb exoskeletons to a rehab center in the Bronx. When my mother called, her voice was softer. There's a fundraiser at the community center. You know, Eli's on the board. They want to see if you could show what you've been working on. Bring your project, she said. For a second, it dredged up all that old rage, her using softer words, as if her hesitance was new. But I thought of Roscoe, and how every pivot, every awkward step was practiced into grace. I said yes. The old neighborhood had changed little. Brick rows, delis with neon, busted payphones. The community center was sticky inside, from the smell of spaghetti dinner and floor wax. I carried Roscoe in a rolling case, his legs tucked like a sleeping stork. Eli met me at the door, nerves and pride warring on his face. His handshake was too tight. "You actually brought it," he said, as if I were still 15 and bringing a science project. "Yeah," I said, tucking my anger behind a smile. My parents hovered by the punch table. My mother's hair was grayer than I remembered, my father's glasses thicker. Their faces were searching, hopeful, unsteady. The auditorium buzzed with laughter, children running. Folded chairs faced a stage. The mayor spoke. Someone announced raffle prizes. After an hour, a volunteer waved at me. "You ready?" Eli stepped beside me, stage whispered. "Nobody expects anything cool. Just show them your robot, say a few words. Most people here think a Roomba is advanced tech." "Inspiring," I said, letting bitterness slip, quick and sharp. He shrugged, hands in pockets. "Just don't expect them to, get it." The rage was there, sour and thick. But beneath it, something more resilient had grown. They called my name. The microphone's feedback screeched. I set the rolling case on stage, unlatched it, unveiling Roscoe. Murmurs skipped across the crowd. I saw Aunt Nora squinting, 2 local kids whispering, my mother's lips pressed tight. I powered Roscoe on. He rose, mechanical whirring just audible under the chatter. I pressed the command on my phone. Roscoe unfolded, balanced himself, and took